Good morning, everyone. This is the Black Blogger, continuing to celebrate and read the great Black masters in the month of February 2018. Today, we're going to read the principles of the Universal Negro Improvement Association. Those four letters immediately align with Brother Marcus Garvey. This speech was given November 25th, 1922. The Universal Negro Improvement Association stands for the bigger brotherhood. The UNIA stands for human rights, not only for Negroes, but for all races. The philosophy and opinions of Marcus Garvey, or Africa for the Africans, Volume 2. Over 15 years ago, the Universal Negro Improvement Association placed itself before the world as the movement through which the new and rising Negro would give expressions of his feelings. This association adopts an attitude not of hostility to other races and peoples of the world, but an attitude of self-respect and manhood rights on the behalf of 400 million Negroes of the world. We represent peace and harmony, love, human sympathy, human rights, and human justice, and that is why we fight so much. Wheresoever human rights are denied to any group, wheresoever justice is denied to any group, there the UNIA finds a cause. And at this time, among all the peoples of the world, the group that suffers most from injustice, the group that is denied most of these rights that belong to all humanity, is the black group of 400 million. Because of that injustice, because of that denial of our rights, we go forth under the leadership of the one who is always on the side of right to fight the common war of humanity. To fight as we fought in the Revolutionary War, as we fought in the Civil War, as we fought in the Spanish-American War, and as we have fought in the war between 1914 and 1919 on the battle plains of France and Flanders, as we fought up the heights of Mesopotamia. Even so, under the leadership of the UNIA, we are marshaling the 400 million Negroes of the world to fight for the emancipation of the race and of the redemption of the country of our fathers. We represent a new line of thought among Negroes. Whether you call it advanced thought or reactionary thought, I do not care. If it is reactionary for people to seek independence in government, then we are reactionary. If it is advanced though for people to seek liberty and freedom, then we represent the advanced school of thought among the Negroes of this country. We of the Universal Negro Improvement Association believe that what is good for the other fellow is good for us. If government is something that is worthwhile, if government is something that is appreciable and helpful and protective to others, then we also want to experiment in government. We do not mean a government that will make us citizens without rights or subjects without considerations. We mean the kind of government that will place our race in control, even as other races are in control of their own governments. This does not suggest anything that is unreasonable. It was not unreasonable for George Washington, the great hero and father of the country, to have fought for freedom of America, given to us this great republic and this great democracy. It is not unreasonable for the liberals of France to have fought against the monarchy, to give the world French democracy and French republicanism. It is no unrighteous cause that led Tolstoy to sound the call of liberty in Russia, which has ended and given to the world the social democracy of Russia, an experiment that will probably prove to be a boon and blessing to mankind. If it was not an unrighteous act that led Washington to fight for the independence of this country and led the liberals of France to establish the Republic, it is therefore not an unrighteous cause for the Universal Negro Improvement Association to lead 400 million Negroes all over the world to fight for the liberation of our country. Therefore, the Universal Negro Improvement Association is not advocating the cause of church building, because we have a sufficiently large number of churches among us to administer to the spiritual needs of the people, and we're not going to compete with those who are engaged in so splendid a work. We are not engaged in building any new social institutions and YMCAs or YWCAs, because there are enough social workers engaged in those praiseworthy efforts. We are not engaged in politics because we have enough politicians, Democrats, socialists, Soviets, etc., and the political situation is well taken care of. We are not engaged in domestic politics, in church building, or in social uplift work, but we are engaged in nation building. And advocating the principles of this association, we find it has been very much misunderstood and very much misrepresented by men from within our own race as well as others from without. Any reform movement that seeks to bring about changes for the benefit of humanity is bound to be misrepresented by those who have always taken it upon themselves to administer to and lead the unfortunate and direct those who may be placed under the temporary disadvantages. It has been so in all other movements, whether social or political. Hence, those of us in the Universal Negro Improvement Association who lead do not feel in any way embarrassed about this misrepresentation, about this misunderstanding as far as the aims and objects of the Negro Improvement Association go. But those who probably would have taken kindly notice of this great movement have been led to believe that this movement seeks not to develop the good within the race, but to give expression to that which is most destructive and most harmful to society and to government. I desire to remove that misunderstanding that has been created in the minds of millions of people throughout the world in their relationship to the organization. The Universal Negro Improvement Association stands for the bigger brotherhood. The Universal Negro Improvement Association stands for human rights, not only for Negroes, but for all races. The Universal Negro Improvement Association believes in the rights of not only the black race, but the white race, the yellow race, and the brown race. The Universal Negro Improvement Association believes that the white man has as much right to be considered, the yellow man has as much right to be considered, the brown man has as much right to be considered, as well as the black man of Africa. In the view of the fact that the black man of Africa has contributed as much to the world as the white man of Europe and the brown man and yellow man of Asia, we of the Universal Negro Improvement Association demand that the white, yellow, and brown races give to the black man this place in the civilization of the world. We ask for nothing more than the rights of 400 million Negroes. We are not seeking, as I said before, to destroy or disrupt the society or government of other races, but we are determined that 400 million of us shall unite ourselves to free our motherland from the grasp of the invader. We of the Universal Negro Improvement Association are determined to unite 400 million Negroes for their own industrial, political, social, and religious emancipation. We of the Universal Negro Improvement Association are determined to unite the 400 million Negroes of the world to give expression to their own feeling. We are determined to unite the 400 Negroes of the world for the purpose of building a civilization of their own. And in that effort, we are desired to bring together the 15 million of the United States, the 180 million in Asia and the West Indies and Central and South America, and the 200 million in Africa. We are looking towards political freedom on the continent of Africa, the land of our fathers. The Universal Negro Improvement Association is not seeking to build up another government within the bounds or borders of the United States of America. The Universal Negro Improvement Association is not seeking to disrupt any organized system of government, but the association is determined to bring Negroes together for the building up of a nation of our own. And why? Because we have been forced to it. We have been forced to it throughout the world, not only in America, not only in Europe, not only in the British Empire, but wheresoever the black man happens to find himself, he has been forced to do for himself. To talk about government is little more than some of our people can appreciate just at this time. The average man does not think that way just because he finds himself a citizen or a subject of some country. He seems to say, why should there be a need for any other government? We are French, English, or American, but we of the Universal Negro Improvement Association have studied seriously this question of nationality among Negroes, this American nationality, this British nationality, this French, Italian, or Spanish nationality, and we have discovered that when it counts for naught, when that nationality comes in conflict with the racial idealism of the group that rules, when our interests clash with those of the ruling faction, then we find that we have absolutely no rights. In times of peace, when everything is all right, Negroes have a hard time wherever they go. Wheresoever we find ourselves getting those rights that belong to us in common with others whom we claim as fellow citizens, getting that consideration that should be ours by the right of the Constitution, by the right of law. But in the time of trouble, they make us partners in the cause, as happened in the last war when we were partners, whether British, French, or American Negroes. And we were told that we must forgive everything in an effort to save the nation. We have saved many nations in this manner, and we have lost our lives doing that. Hundreds of thousands, nay, millions of black men lie buried underground due to that old-time camouflage of saving the nation. We saved the British Empire, we saved the French Empire, we saved this glorious country more than once, and all that we have received for our sacrifices, all that we have received for what we have done, even in giving up our lives, is just what you are receiving now, just what I am receiving now. You and I fare no better in America, in the British Empire, or in any other part of the white world. We fare no better than any black man wheresoever he shows his head. And why? Because we have been satisfied to allow ourselves to be led, educated, to be directed by the other fellow who has always sought to lead the world in that direction that would satisfy him and strengthen his position. We have allowed ourselves for the last 500 years to be a race of followers, following every race that is led in the direction that would make them more secure. The Universal Negro Improvement Association is reversing the old-time order of things. We refuse to be followers anymore. We are leading ourselves. That means if any saving is to be done later on, whether it is saving one nation or that one government, we are going to seek a method of saving Africa first. And why Africa? Because Africa has become the grand prize of nations. Africa has become the big game of the nation hunters. Today, Africa looms as the greatest commercial, industrial, and political prize in the world. The difference between the Universal Negro Improvement Association and the other movements of this country and probably the world is that the Universal Negro Improvement Association seeks the independence of government, while the other organization seeks to make the Negro a secondary part of existing governments. We differ from the organizations in America because we seek to subordinate the Negro as a secondary consideration in a great civilization, knowing that in America the Negro will never reach his highest ambition, knowing that the Negro in America will never get his constitutional rights. All of these organizations which are fostering the improvement of Negroes in the British Empire know that the Negro in the British Empire will never reach the highest of his constitutional rights. What do I mean by constitutional rights? If the black man is to reach the height of his ambition in this country, if the black man is to get all of his constitutional rights in America, then the black man should have the same chance in this nation as any other man to become president of the nation or a street cleaner in New York. If the black man in the British Empire is to have all of his constitutional rights, it means that the Negro in the British Empire should have at least the same right to become premier of Great Britain as he has to become a street cleaner in the city of London. Are they prepared to give us such political equality? You and I can live in the United States for 100 or more years, and our generation may live for 200 or for 5,000 more years. And so long as there is a black and white population, when the majority is on the side of the white race, you and I will never get the political justice to get political equality in this country. Then why should a black man with rising ambition, after preparing himself in every possible way to give expression to that highest ambition, allow himself to be kept down by racial prejudice within a country? If I'm as educated as the next man, if I am as prepared as the next man, if I have passed through the best schools and colleges and universities as the other fellow, why should I not have the fair chance to compete with the other fellow for the biggest position in the nation? I have feelings, I have blood, I have senses like the other fellow. I have ambition, I have hope. Why should he, because of some racial prejudice, keep me down? And why should I concede to him the right to rise above me and to establish himself as my permanent master? That is where the UNIA differs from other organizations. I refuse to stultify my ambition, and every true Negro refuses to stultify his ambition to suit anyone, and therefore the Universal Negro Improvement Association decides if America is not big enough for two presidents, if England is not big enough for two kings, then we are not going to quarrel over the matter. We will leave one president in America, and we will leave one king in England, and we will leave one president in France, and we will have one president in Africa. Hence, the Universal Negro Improvement Association does not seek to interfere with the social and political systems of France, but by the arrangement of things today, the UNIA refuses to recognize any political or social system in Africa except that which we are about to establish for ourselves. We are not preaching a propaganda of hate against anybody. We love the white man. We love all humanity because we feel that we cannot live without the other. The white man is as necessary to the existence of the Negro as the Negro is necessary to his existence. There is a common relationship that we cannot escape. Africa has certain things that Europe wants, and Europe has certain things that Africa wants. And if a fair and square deal must bring white and black with each other, it is impossible for us to escape it. Africa has oil, diamond, copper, gold, and rubber, and all the minerals that Europe needs, and there must be some kind of relationship between Africa and Europe for a fair exchange, so we cannot afford to hate anybody. The question often asked is, what does it require to redeem a race and free a country? If it takes manpower, if it takes scientific intelligence, if it takes education of any kind, or if it takes blood, then 400 million Negroes of the world have it. It took the combined manpower of the Allies to put down the mad determination of the Kaiser to impose German will upon the world and upon humanity. Among those who suppressed this mad ambition were 2 million Negroes who had not yet forgotten how to drive men across the firing line. Surely those of us who faced German shot and shell at Meron, at Verdun, have not forgotten the order of our commander-in-chief, the cry that caused us to leave America in such mad haste when white fellow citizens of America refused to fight and said, "We do not believe in war, and therefore, even though we are American citizens and even though the nation is in danger, we will not go to war." When many of them cried out and said, "We are German Americans and we cannot fight," when so many white men refused to answer to the call and dodged behind all kinds of excuses, 400,000 black men were ready without a question. It was because we were told it was a war of democracy. It was a war of liberation of the weaker people of the world. We heard the cry of Woodrow Wilson, not because we liked him so, but because the things he said were of such a nature that they appealed to us as men. Wheresoever the cause of humanity stands in need of assistance, there you will find a Negro ever ready to serve. He has done it from the time of Christ up to now, when the whole world turned its back upon the Christ, the man who said to be the Son of God, when the world cried out, "Crucify him," when the world spurned him and spat upon him. It was a black man, Simon the Syrian, who took up the cross. Why? Because the cause of humanity appealed to him. When the black man saw the suffering Jew struggling under the heavy cross, he was willing to go up to his assistance, and he bore the cross to the heights of Calvary. In the spirit of Simon the Syrian, 1900 years ago, we answered the call of Woodrow Wilson, the call of a larger humanity, and it was for that we willingly rushed into the war from America, from the West Indies, over 100,000. It was for that we rushed into war from Africa, 2 million of us. We met in France, Flanders, and in Mesopotamia. We fought unfalteringly. When the white man faltered and fell back on their battle lines at Mons and at Verdun, when they ran away from the charge of the German hordes, the black hell fighters stood before the cannonade, stood before the charge, and again they shouted, "There will be a high time in the old town tonight." We made it so hot a few months after our appearance in France, and on various battlefronts we succeeded in driving the German hordes across the Rhine and driving the Kaiser out of Germany and out of Potsdam into Holland. We have not forgotten the process of war. If we had been liberal-minded enough to give our life's blood in France and Mesopotamia and elsewhere, fighting for the white man whom we have always assisted, surely we have not forgotten to fight for ourselves. And when that time comes that the world will again give Africa an opportunity for freedom, surely 400 million black men will march out on the battle plains of Africa under the colors of the red, the black, and the green. We shall march out, yes, as black American citizens, as black British subjects, as black French citizens, as black Italians, or as black Spaniards, but we shall march out with a greater loyalty, the loyalty of race. We shall march out in answer to the cry of our fathers who cry out to us for the redemption of our own country, our own motherland, Africa. We shall march out, not forgetting the blessings of America. We shall march out not forgetting the blessings of civilization. We shall march out with a history of peace before and behind us, and surely that history shall be our breastplate. For how can man fight better than knowing that the cause for which he fights is righteous? How can man fight more gloriously than knowing that behind him is a history of slavery, a history of bloody carnage and massacre inflicted upon a race because of its inability to protect itself and fight? Shall we not fight for the glorious opportunity of protecting and forevermore establishing ourselves as a mighty race and nation, nevermore to be disrespected by men? Glorious shall be the battle when the time comes to fight for our people and our race. And we should say to the millions who are in Africa to hold the fort, for we are coming for 100 million strong. And that is the principles of the Universal Negro Improvement Association. Have a great day, and God bless you.